First is that I'm not going to cover drift zones in this video for a number of reasons. One would be that I do not consider myself a good enough drifter to offer a guide.
Not bad, not bad.
So, two statements aged a bit poorly from my last video. This one
One would be that I do not consider myself a good enough drifter to offer a guide.
and also this.
Drift zones were unfortunately killed off in December of 2021 when the point reduction patch was released. As a result, nobody can beat their PBs, and they're now by far the least competitive type of PR stun in Forza Horizon 5.
Both of these statements were true at the time of me recording that video, but times change pretty quickly, don't they? So here we are, completing the saga with the fifth and final element, drift zones. Before we start, I just want to say thank you so much for the support from my PR stunts video. I got a lot of positive feedback for it, and it is honestly the reason I decided to do this video as well. So to everyone who left a comment or mentioned it on Discord, thank you. And lastly, some of you from Discord may remember that I promised a video on this goober, LA9.
Why is it called Burger King? Why isn't it Burger Queen?
That video is in limbo. I recorded visuals and the audio. It's 80% edited. I just don't like how it turned out. The audio is pretty fucked because I had to keep my voice down, and the script gets cringe at certain points. I don't want to upload something that I'm not very proud of, so let me know in the comments if you want to see it either way. Alright, now on to drift zones. Since this is more of an educational video, I'll be dividing it into segments which talk about different aspects. Some of them will contain more advanced tips, others will be more suited for casuals or beginners who are just getting started. And I feel like there's no better way of getting started than knowing exactly which cars to use for these absolute pieces of. So let's talk cars.
She call me Mr. Bombastic, tell me fantastic.
In general, you can pick any car you want as long as you make it work, but some cars will obviously be better than others. The current meta follows the next three. Low Sevilla for road drifting, the Wheelie Jeep for off-road drifting, and the Caterham for when your parents don't love you. Honorable mentions to the Isetta and the Noble, because otherwise the top drifters will come at my throat. Now, what do a military vehicle, a shopping cart, and a Tesla have to do with drifting? I'm glad you asked. You see, this bozo here has 2000 horsepower and instant torque, meaning it'll not only slide for 3 workdays at a time, but also maintain angle while doing so. This one has great transition speed and tires that are roughly 3 molecules wide, which results in no grip whatsoever. And this one has a great power to weight ratio, holds angle nicely, and is very effective for hairpins and suicide attempts. For tunes, I'll put up on the screen the name of the top 5 creators in this category, and I'll let you choose whose you want to go for. Drift tunes are often adjusted to the creator style, so make sure you try tunes from multiple people to see whose style fits you the most. In order to understand drifting, you need to understand what gets you more points. The simple answer is 2 things: line and angle. Lines are pretty straightforward. You want to have the longest path possible from start to finish. Longer path means more time spent drifting, which means more points. Expert drifters will extend their lines by going off the road about half a car length, as it is proven to help you gain more points. Here's an example of a clean run on the same drift zone with terrible lines, and one with optimized lines.
Surely there's a way to do this, like, properly. I suck. It sucks so much.
The difference speaks for itself. Now, if you actually analyze these two clips, you'll notice there is something else that's very different about them, which leads me to my second point, angle. Angle is also pretty straightforward. The closer you are to 90 degrees, the more points you get. Well, not really, since you can actually slide at more than 90 degrees, which is even better, but you get the point. Cars like the Avaya are great for holding angle because of the amount of power they have. I won't show a comparison again, so just remember that drifting like this is probably why you're stuck at the scores you're at.
Only song you will hear is the beating of my heart, and we
This is probably when I'm gonna get a lot of criticism from the top drifters for either saying something stupid or forgetting about something. Bring it on, boys, I'm ready. These are techniques I picked up on over the last 2 or 3 months, and I felt they're important enough to mention. If I miss some, just remember I'm not a top level drifter. In other words, first and most obvious one is clutch kicking. Want to extend them slides? Hold both the clutch and the handbrake at once and you'll end up going further. Needless to say, you'll need to turn on manual clutch and start experimenting with this mechanic if you've never used it before. But trust me when I say that you'll never want to go back once you've got a handle on it. Clutch is also useful for transitions. If you time it correctly, you can transition faster, meaning less points lost during the process. Next is something only really PC players have to worry about, which is the frame rate. If some of the speed traps require 48 FPS for optimal scores, you are not gonna like drift zones, because the standard rate for a good score is 30 FPS. This will impact the scores by 1 to 2k depending on the zone's length or number of transitions, so don't use it unless you're at the sweaty level already. Then there's a little trick I call tail snapping, which looks like this, and it basically allows you to steal a few more points before a transition. However, I don't recommend trying this before a longer stretch of road because you won't be able to carry enough momentum. Save it for tighter zones. Also, when you're approaching the end and feel a personal best coming, try going for maximum angle like this. It's a free couple of points and it looks cool, so what are you waiting for? There's also this thing here, the wide curve, which can actually carry your rear tires along quite nicely if you fit them in perfectly. It's not easy to pull off, especially without rewinds, but it's so satisfying when you do pull it off. And that's about it when it comes to tips and tricks. There is stuff like timing your tire dropping perfectly to match the line you want to go for, but I'd rather not talk about stuff that I don't fully understand myself. I'd rather just let someone else do it.
you will and have some sweet pillow talk and bombastic and fantastic.
Now that I've told you what to do, this video wouldn't be complete without telling you what not to do. Last time I showed these exploits, some dumbasses decided it'd be funny to do the same because, Dom did it and he didn't suffer any consequences, so that means it's okay, right? You are literally the consequences I suffer from right now, you know who you are. So in order to avoid all that, I'll just try my best to explain instead of show them. First is looping. If you don't know what it means, bless your soul. If you do, don't do it. Save your dignity. Next is my infamous zigzagging, which needs no introduction. It's a method that exploits the boundaries of drift zones that shouldn't be as wide as they are. And some people don't understand that just because you can do something doesn't mean you have to do it. Did I mention reverse drifting? Might as well show this one since it's not as easy to pull off as the others, but I think you can tell what's wrong with it. You can abuse it to almost no end and it goes against the purpose of a drift zone. I know it looks cool, but just don't, please. And finally, the rewind glitch, which some genuine mentally ill individuals use to inflate their scores into the millions, and that's how you end up with leaderboards looking like this. Here's a little video demonstration. Unlike the other exploits, this one can be done involuntarily, so just be careful when you rewind at the start of any drift zone. On this particular one, it butchered quite a lot of scores. And that is it for drift zones. I missed out on some stuff, I know, so please put your forks and torches down. This was more of a general showcase than a deep dive, alright? Well, thank you to everyone who stuck to the end, and I'll see you all very soon.